Hey everyone, I hope you're having a fantastic day today because I sure am. And this time we're going to be looking at the XRP CEO and what exactly he said. So there's a big thing that happened right now, and Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, actually did go live on TV 5 years ago and a few months ago. So the pretty important is the stance doesn't really change, and I wanted to show you guys the big difference of what's exactly going on. To me, it's absolutely incredible how the stance and the vision is the same. The lawsuit and everything is completely unchanging for him, and he does exactly as predicted. And this is why XRP has this huge, strong potential, because we do know that the CEO actually, just like Binance CZ, wants to build an awesome product, wants to build something great, and is unfazed, knows already about the result, knows that his coin is not a potential alleged security. And that's what's really fascinating to me is there's big CEOs here, and the biggest importance is that you smash the like button, first of all. Thank you so much. But the second one is that 5 years have passed. He still looks great. And the second one is that when he talks about XRP, he still talks about what has been achieved, what will be achieved, and what happens next. Just look at comparison of these two clips, and I'll give you a great analysis for it.
Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse, he joins us right now. And you know, David, some say Ripple could be the next Bitcoin. What do you think, Brad? Is that a compliment that Ripple could be the next Bitcoin?
Well, I think if we're solving a real problem and it's at scale, then I think it's a compliment. I think the most important thing that is going on in crypto is understanding what is real and what is just hype. Some, I think, may look back on Bitcoin and find that it was the Napster of digital assets. What I mean by that is Napster was the first to digitize music and demonstrate, hey, if you digitize music, you can do a lot of cool things with that. But ultimately, they were circumventing trademark laws, they were circumventing royalty payments, and governments stepped in, and Napster was not successful. But Spotify, iTunes, Pandora, they were very successful. I think what you'll find is that maybe the next generation of digital assets ends up solving some of the original problems that Bitcoin set out to solve.
So RippleNet is trying to take on Swift. What's been the traction like? Who's come on board?
Well, it's interesting as you step back and look at this. If you and I decided we were going to send $10,000 to California today, the fastest way for us to do it would be to drive to the airport and fly it there. That's a crazy thing to think about when you're in the age of the internet and we're used to information on demand. When we think about the customers that have come on board, it's because we're solving that real problem. We're changing the nature of a payment taking days to settle to California to seconds. So we now have well over 100 customers ranging from some of the biggest banks in the world to payment providers to the Western Unions and MoneyGrams, Linlan Pay out of China.
How many banks?
It's over 100. I actually don't know the exact number now. Last time we announced it publicly, we said over 100. We'll probably announce the next one when we get to over 200. We're signing up more than a bank a week now.
The thing is, it's not the number of banks, it's the volume
for sure
out there. What kind of volume are you looking at?
Well, we've had one that we could talk publicly about is we have one corridor run by SEB, which is one of the first or second largest bank in Sweden, has done over $1 billion USD equivalent through one corridor. So while on the global macro scale, we're still just getting started. I think we're on mile 1 of a marathon, but we've crossed that starting line. Like, this is real activity in production systems where customers are really benefiting from that. We clearly have a long way to go, and the overall maturity of the digital asset market, I think, has a long way to go. But if we keep going back to let's focus on a real problem and solve a real problem for real customers, I'm really optimistic.
You have several products. We talked about the system, RippleNet. You also have a digital token, which is the XRP. How is the XRP doing? Because we saw it surge 1,300%.
Right. So XRP actually was the best performing digital asset in 2017. It was up, I think, something like 25,000%. The excitement around digital assets is because I think you're solving a real problem. And I think one of the things you saw happen, particularly last December, is there's understandably concern about regulation and what does that mean for digital assets. From the get-go, Ripple has worked with regulators, and we have worked with regulated institutions like banks where there isn't regulatory uncertainty. And so we have found that part of the reason why XRP has performed well is because people realize, hey, wait a minute, back to your question, is XRP the next Bitcoin? If we work with the system to solve this problem, and we can solve that problem at scale, a problem measured in the trillions of dollars, then there's a lot of opportunity to create value in XRP.
But how can there be clarity on regulation when different countries are adopting different strategies when it comes to regulation? And the other thing as well is volatility. I mean, why use a cryptocurrency when it's so volatile right now?
Yeah. So look, it's a really important question. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. I've kind of jokingly suggested that when people talk about regulatory uncertainty, it's often people because they don't like the regulation. They're not actually regulatory uncertainty. If you think about the XRP transaction from one regulated financial institution, a bank or a payment provider, they're doing what's called a KYC check, which references Know Your Customer. This is a global
regulation.
Well, look, I think the SEC, what we found through their emails and during this litigation is that they even identified that there is a gap. And we saw that in the emails they were exchanging internally. So I think there is a gap. But look, like any industry, you're going to potentially have bad actors. But the vast majority of people I interact with that are builders and using these technologies to build a better infrastructure for financial transactions, for real estate. There are a lot of different use cases for blockchain and crypto that really can be profound. Ripple has been focused on cross-border payments as a starting point. But look, I think you're going to see an incredible number of use cases for these technologies, and having clear rules of the road allows for the investment, allows entrepreneurs to lean in. I think the SEC just has been wrong as a matter of law, and it has really stifled the innovation here in the United States.
Brad, it's clear to see that this is not a win for the SEC, but it's hard to see how it's a win for crypto in the sense that this just puts this back into the lane of either Congress to figure out, and we know how long Congress takes to figure things out, or it just raises the question, when's it going to be clear? It doesn't make sense, frankly, that something's a security sometimes, but not a security other times. It introduces all kinds of uncertainty into transactions and investments that people probably are going to want to hold for more than 2 or 3 years. So, how do you feel about the UK Financial Conduct Authority's new proposed rules on crypto assets? Because we might end up somewhere closer to where they're headed.
Look, I feel very good about what we have seen, not just from the UK, but frankly, I mean, the fact that the European Union, 27 countries came together to create something they called MiCA. And the fact that we can't have one country here in the United States provide any leadership or clarity. But look, John, I'll take the other side of some of what you said. There is now clarity. The rule of law in the United States is clear that XRP is not a security when traded on exchanges, when used for payment. There's a whole bunch of things in the judge's ruling that make it very clear about XRP. The SEC has been clear about Bitcoin also. Now, the unfortunate reality is right now there's clarity for two, Bitcoin and XRP. That's not a good thing. I mean, it might be good for Bitcoin and XRP, but it's the reason why we have been calling for clarity for years.
So just looking at these two clips, the vision is completely the same. The fast transactions is what we need in modern history, and it's still what we are facing to this day, 5 years later. And of course, the development still hasn't been reached. I think the real importance here is that what we are seeing right now is that the lawsuit really did take a hit on them. There's no denying that the price was definitely affected. But what wasn't affected is their strategy. So if you hear Ripple CEO talking 5 years later, he never stepped down as CEO. He went through the lawsuit. They did all of this, all of that. They fought it, and they won on some counts. And the biggest factor here is all through this cost them a lot of money. The reasoning of what's going on and what will happen is still the same. The vision is still the same, and I think that's what means is the true importance of actual the project here. That Ripple wants to actually make fast transactions, wants to make them cheap as possible. Now, why they made a crypto coin for Ripple is much more advanced. But this does tell me something, is that, well, Ripple isn't really over just yet, and it's just beginning to start. 5 years is nothing, while the development might have been slowed down a bit from the lawsuits. 5 years is literally nothing in crypto space, and think more on the 15-20 year line, maybe even for your grandchildren or perhaps your legacy when you think of crypto. So it's not really a simple task as saying, oh, in 3 years I'm gonna be rich. Sadly, with inflation, a lot of stuff is changing, and there's gonna be changing. But I do think it's a very clear step forward on what's gonna be happening and what's going on in the very near future for crypto. And I'll keep you guys updated with more news. And until next time, peace everyone.